Okay, students, how are you guys this time? Hopefully you enjoyed your last week talking about plate tectonics. That is one of the more important topics of of this unit. It's really the central theme for this whole unit for our next test. So that the reason why that discussion last week was pretty important was because it actually started to tie in a lot of these ideas that you guys have already done into plate tectonics, because we consider what we call plate tectonics a unifying theory. Unifying idea that connects all these ideas together. We're going to continue on that trend this time. We're going to be talking about geological structures and how stress and strain is related to those geological structures. So like faults and folds and things of that nature. Well, next week we'll talk about specifically how earthquakes react with those faults. So this is all connected to that plate tectonic idea. And so just to realize that, that this is that central theme for this unit. So this week I'm going to go through the quick objectives for you. So we're going to describe how rocks can deform in response to stress and that deformation or strain that's related to that. We're going to identify and sketch. I would ask that you can try to actually sketch these out. It's been shown that if you draw these and you write them, you take notes like this, you will remember things by actually the putting pen to paper. Actually causes you to remember things. So I would encourage you to try to sketch these, because if you sketch them, you'll know how to identify them. You'll know how to remember how to which one's which, right? So this ones that you should know are normal faults, strike slip faults, reverse joints, so forth down the line. And you should understand how these are related to tectonic settings. Okay. Tectonic settings is, by the way, not necessarily a plate boundary. It's just the tectonic regime what's in the area. So do you have extension in that area? Do you have compression or extension, shear? What kind of stress do you have related to that region? You're also going to be talking about how mountain belts are formed and how that relates to plate tectonics. You're going to just talk about a little bit about isostasy, how the plates float in the mantle. And then exhumation, which is basically the erosion of that material, and then the isostasy is how those mountains will rise and how that's related to tectonics and also the rock cycle. Last of all, we're going to talk about a little bit about what cratons are and how that's different than mountain belts. Really, they're ancient mountain belts that have been eroded away, really. Okay, so in our readings, you have Chapter 7 is our reading this week. I gave you some additional glossary terms here. Some of this is in the glossary of your text, but I add a little bit sometimes of those and take away some of the ones that are in your text. So I only put the ones in here that I think are the most important. And I do that to make sure to focus you on that. On the lectures, here's my lecture slides, and there's 5 lectures this time. Each one's about 15 minutes, except the last is about 5, so it's a little over an hour. For this week. Okay, so that's not terribly bad. And then you have some additional information there if you need it. Okay, if you're not understanding it there. Last one here is your discussions. In your discussion here, we're going to be basically looking at field photos of geological features, and you're going to help identify that feature, and then you're going to talk a little bit about what that feature tells us about plate tectonic settings and the stress regime within that region. So, for example, let me do one for this one right here, which is West Virginia region. And so you would look at this picture, identify the features within it. This one actually has a couple of features here, and from those features, you'll tell us what kind of plate tectonic setting it would be with, and then also what kind of stress regime would be associated with that as well. Okay, and so. From discussions, when you do respond, by the way, please comment on where else in the world you might find stuff like that. Where else would you find those kind of regimes? It's getting you guys down to ideas that we have different tectonic regimes, different boundaries, and different locations, and trying to get used to understand some of the geographical side of that. Lastly, but not least, of course, is your assignments. You do have a reading quiz. As always, those reading quizzes are supposed to help you with your basic understanding of terms and basic understanding of the topic. They're usually a lot easier than the online activities. The online activities are usually more in depth. I've had a couple of people have problems with some of the videos in the online activities. That's usually due to your own settings within your computer. Sometimes they don't allow flash. If your computer is not allowing flash to occur, that means sometimes that the videos won't work. But I would suggest that 99% of the time it's your own computer that's having the issues. So you need to turn off, make sure Flash is working on your computer and whatnot. If you go into the help desk for SmartWorks, it will tell you some of the common mistakes that people have problems with when they look at videos. Okay. Anyways, if you guys have any other questions, as always, shoot me an email. Go into the general discussion board. Okay. In your discussions, there's always that general course questions. You can go there and ask a question. It looks like there's one in there that I haven't answered yet, so I'll go do that. I'll go do that as soon as I can. Anyways, guys, talk to you later. Hope you enjoy the week. Like always, let me know if you have any questions.